Good evening, everybody. The Music Fan is back, bringing smiles to the faces, knowledge to the people, and most importantly, music to the masses. And yes, you are seeing this right. I am dropping another video this week. The reason why I'm doing this is because I've had so many other albums I want to talk about that I haven't got to just because of the one a week Are You In, as well as the one a week digging through the discography. But now that I'm getting a little bit more time and finding a better way of getting these videos out to you on time and shorter, it's given me a chance to open up my schedule a little bit more and put out another video. So I'm going to try to dedicate Tuesdays to either an Are You In or a digging through the discography, depending on what is going on and what I have to talk about. There also may be times where I won't put it out just because of my workload, but that doesn't mean you won't be getting the 3 videos that you usually get. That will definitely be there. So sit back and relax as we look at another Are You In? And tonight I am talking about Anderson Paak's newest album entitled Ventura. Now, Anderson Paak is a musician and record producer from Oxnard, California. He also does have his own band, which is him on lead vocals and drums, Jose Rios on guitar and backing vocals, Ron Nava Avant on keyboards and backing vocals, Kelsey Gonzalez on bass guitar and backing vocals, and Callum Connor on DJ, drums, and backing vocals. His previous albums include Venice in 2014, Malibu in 2016, and Oxnard in 2018. Now, if you've been watching my videos since 2016, you would have seen me and Josh talk about our top 10 albums in 2016, and Malibu was one of his. Curiously, I listened to it and I really enjoyed it. I love the hip-hop, funky sound. There was a lot of really beautiful arrangements, and it was just a really fun album to listen to. Unfortunately, I never got around to listening to Oxnard because of just how many different albums I had to listen to. So that one is one that I wished I had, but just didn't have the time to go over. When I heard that Ventura was coming out, I made sure to take a listen because, one, I was curious to see what he could come up with in the span of 6 months after a big drop like Oxnard, and 2, I didn't want to miss another album of his. So took a listen, and here are my thoughts. So the first thing is that funky and soulful sound is still there, and it's just as good as I remember it. To start things off, you have Come Home, my favorite song on the album, and the first song on the album, which opens it up so well. It opens up with this piano and voice idea, and then Anderson Paak on drums does this like little fill drum roll idea to bring in the momentum of what this song is going to be, and it's very funky and it's a lot of fun. There's some great bass lines on here. The chord progression feels really jazzy and it just hits really nicely. It also shows Anderson's voice, which, if you've never heard his voice, it's a little bit on the thin side for R&B and funk, but it works well. And you'll see how that implements in his rapping a little bit later. The song also features Andre 3000. After this change in the chord progression that adds, again, another layer and keeps you wanting to listen to this particular song. And Andre 3000 does fantastic. He shows that he still has the flow that made Outkast famous. It's a really, really fun song and a great way of opening up the album. But that doesn't mean that just because the best song is the first one, it's all downhill from here. Actually, 4 out of my top 5 songs on this album are the first 4 songs on this album. Come Home, Make It Better, which is this more old school, soulful Motown song, which sounds like it could have been on a Leon Bridges album. It also features Smokey Robinson on the chorus, which makes sense with how that feel is. And it's a beautiful, simplistic song about trying to spark a relationship that has been a little bit broken. I will say there's a little bit weird harmonies at times, but all in all, just a really fun and soulful song. Then you have Reaching Too Much, which features Lala Hathaway. You might have heard of that name from Snarky Puppy's album, Family Dinner Volume 1, and her song Something, where she absolutely destroyed that song, and to that they won a Grammy Award for that song. She fits very well on this song as well, with playing around on the verses as well as also being on the chorus, though The power that she had on Something is more subdued for this particular song, but it makes sense because most of this song is very laid back. I love her interplay with Anderson on this song, and she does some awesome harmonies throughout, and even has a scat solo at the end. The weird thing about this song, though, is the first part. It has so much more energy, the drums have so much energy, and it's a completely different style from what the core part of the song is. That's the only reason why it drops a little bit more, but it's a great song as well. And then Winter Circle is really funky and has a great bass line, some great drums too. And what I love the most about it is the chorus idea, which has these parts that is a little bit more scatting of a ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-dum. It transitions from there to the main idea of the chorus, and it keeps going in between that, and sometimes the beat just drops out to have just that particular little scat line. Also, this is the first song where you see Anderson Paak doing some rapping, and like the thinness of his voice in his singing, it also kind of shows up in his rapping. His voice kind of sounds very similar to a Chance the Rapper or to a Kendrick Lamar. Not as much bass to the voice, but because it's thin, the fast-pacedness just works really well. And he does a fantastic verse on that song. Same thing with on Chosen One, he does some great rapping as well. Those are the two highlights of his rapping. The other song that's in my top 5 for this particular album is King James, which is this really fast-paced song that just keeps being in your face, not in a heavy way, but just in a fast-paced way where the layering of different ideas just keeps coming fast to give you no real time to think that this song has any weaknesses. I will say maybe the only weakness is there isn't much to the arrangement itself, but it's just the fast-pacedness of it just works so well. Those are my top 5, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the album doesn't have much going for it. If anything, my one gripe comes in with just there's a little bit of a lack of diversity in sound, that even when you have a good song later, like Chosen One, like Jet Black, it just doesn't stand out to me as much as the beginning of this album and just how great it was. But even when Jet Black is, to me, my 8th favorite song on the album, you still have a really good album going. Jet Black also features Anderson Paak rapping, but it isn't as interesting to me, and I think why Chosen One and Jet Black don't work as well for me is the choruses aren't as interesting. Sonia Elise on Chosen One and Brandy on Jet Black do alright, but just doesn't really do much to stand out on some of these other better choruses. And in terms of other missteps to me, if you will, Yada Yada isn't the most interesting song either. The melody is a little bit weird. It's like sung spoken, and I just don't really think the arrangement behind it is that much more interesting. And Twilight is definitely, to me, the most lackluster song on the album. It has this beat and style that sounds a lot like Waves from the Justin Timberlake album last year, and that's not a compliment. I know that Waves was one of my favorite songs on that album, but that was a really bad album, and that only stood out in certain ways because just how fun it was. On an album that has much more quality to it, this stands out like a sore thumb. The drums are really bouncy in a bad way. The trumpet part keeps being repetitive and it's pretty annoying. And the harmonies on the chorus don't really work that well for me. It feels like it doesn't really go anywhere. So that's my biggest problem with that song. But it does end on a nice way with What Can We Do? It features Nate Dogg, or at least samples of a previously unreleased song that Anderson Paak worked into this particular song. And it's a nice homage because a lot of what Nate Dogg brought to the table is what Anderson Paak is continuing to this day. The style of the song feels very late 90s, early 2000s R&B, and it's a really nice touch. It's a short song, but that makes sense because they probably only had so much to work with. And it's a nice way of capping off this album. The only other song I haven't talked about, Good Heels, is basically an interlude song, and it's a nice little play with him and Jasmine Sullivan, who are two lovers that just have a night of passion, and Jasmine's trying to leave, before Anderson Paak's girlfriend comes, and it's just a trade-off between, oh, Jasmine left her keys, now she has to come back, and Anderson Paak is trying to be like, you need to do this quickly before she comes back. A lot of these songs lyrically do talk about love and relationships, especially from the perspective of Anderson trying to find love and true love rather than love for his work or love for his fame. Songs like Chosen One, Jet Black, Reaching Too Much, Winner Circle, all these are dealing with trying to find someone that can love him for him rather than his fame and the consequences of that. Come Home is about wanting a person that he loves to come back and trying to better himself because of that. Make It Better, like we said, is talking about trying to reunite a spark. What Can We Do is an ending of a relationship. And Twilight is about a woman that he loves and keeps him level and trying to be there for her when she's down. Other than that, you get Yada Yada, which is about Anderson Paak's journey throughout the music industry and the chip on his shoulder that he has because of it. And King James is the one political song on this album. It's talking about race relationships in America and how black celebrities who use their popularity to bring change for good, like LeBron James, hence King James. Overall, phenomenal CD. What keeps me hooked is those first 4 songs, and what brings me back is just the depth of this album. Like I said, when Jet Black is your 8th best song and you still have 3 others, you're doing a good job. Like I said, Yada Yada, Twilight aren't most interesting, and Good Heals, a nice interlude, but I think it's a very solid album, and I haven't listened to Oxnard. I would love to compare it, but it doesn't feel like a throwaway set. It feels like a very cohesive album that will hopefully do well in my top 50 when the end of the year comes. But if you like R&B, if you love jazz, funky, soulful music, this is going to be right up your alley. So that is my time. Let me know if you love or hate this album and why. Share this with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to my channel so you can see more videos like this. Friday, I'll be back with another Are You In? And we're going to be looking at something a little bit darker. But until then, this is The Music Fan, and I'm signing off.